Hello everyone. Happy Teachers Day to all of you. Myself Trupti Hadia, student of Department of English, Maharaja Krishna Kumar Singh Ji, Bhavnagar University. So, as we are going to celebrate Virtual Teachers Day, and in this I am going to deal with the poem "A Far Cry from Africa" by Derek Walcott. So basically, this poem deals with violence, suffering, and moral dilemmas in Africa, and the suffering of African tribal people by Britishers in colonial period. So I have also connected this with ongoing war time of Israel and Palestine. So let's go through that. Far Cry from Africa by Derek Walcott. So these are the table of contents which we'll go through, and uh, about Derek Walcott and overview. So his full name is Derek Elton Walcott. Nationality, he was a Caribbean poet, playwright, and also essayist. If we talk about heritage, it was mixed African and European descent. Central to this poem's themes and major themes he deals with in his writing is colonialism, cultural identity, hybridity, history, memory, and nature. And some of the famous work of him is Omeros' epic poem "Dream of a Monkey Mounting Play" and "A Far Cry from Africa." Style of his writing is a blend of European literary tradition with Caribbean oral culture and landscape. And he also won a Nobel Prize in literature. So the context of this poem is it was written in response to Mau Mau uprising in Kenya, 1952 to 1960. And if you talk about the central idea of this poem, so it explore colonial violence, moral conflicts, and the poet's divided identity between Africa and Britain. Overview of this poem. So the poem respond to bloodshed during the Mau Mau rebellion against British colonial rule. So first stanza deals with brutality of violence and dehumanization in colonial rhetoric. Second stanza deals with contrast between natural violence, like between animals, and how humans is cruelly does the violence, like they call them as a civilization like britisher used to do with. So and the third stanza basically deals with a personal conflict of Volkert, so African ancestry versus love of English language and culture. Yes, as we talk here, we can divide this poem into three parts or majorly three stanza. First part deal with colonial violence in Africa that leaves innocent people dead and dehumanized. In the second part, the storyline goes like hunter moves to tall grass, birds like abscisses fly up in panic, and then animals fight with each other to survive, and that is natural. And but humans, unlike humans start wars and call it as a courage, even though it only causes suffering and death at the end of the thing. And the third part basically deals with the poet feels torn between African roots and English heritage. So poet is strongly struggling with divided identity amid colonial violence and bloodshed. So, if we talk about the historical and political context of this poem, so basically, we see that Mau Mau uprising in 1952 to 1960, Kiyuki, this tribal group of the people, came together and did rebellion against the Britishers. So, they registered British colonial rule in Kenya. So colonial violence we also see, and then Volcott's heritage, like he was born in Caribbean and mixed African and European ancestry. So the poem basically deals with the themes like violence and brutality, corpses in paradise, wars dance to drums, peace built on death, then colonialism and hypocrisy, statistic and policies justify atrocity, peace comes at the cost of lives. Then identity crisis, like poet itself feels that, then race and othering, how Britishers were used to call them as a civilized, and how they were try to differentiate between the people. Then poem also finds the moral conflict, as poet himself also feels that. So symbolism used in this poem is like white peace. Basically, Britishers were used to say about this white peace, how they were considering their behave or their doing as a white peace, but ultimately it was all of the violence and suffering done to, on the people. Then the one of the bird ipsis, which also humans does the violence they were doing from the time in the past. So this bird also shows that. Then carcasses of drum, like how this drum was basically made of skin of the animal. So how culture of a tribal people is connected with ultimately the violence in this poem. At one time, this poem deals with the revolt against the Britishers, but we find the this symbol of drum, which ultimately made up of this skin of animal. So we find contrast between them. Then the colonel of carrion. In the poem, you will find that it was you will find the reference of flea and colonel of carrion. How it was, you will find it on the dead corpses all over the land of this Africa. So, imagery and language used in this poem is like animal metaphors, tawny pelt of Africa, worm, colon of carrion, gorilla, restless with the Superman, violence and death in corpses, paradise. On one hand, Africa was considered as a paradise for the British people, as they were snatching the things, and even they controlling their land and people. So ultimately it leads to violence and death to lots of people. So another imagery we find is natural vs human violence, like beats acts from insects. We have tendency of violence from the past. So men inflict cruelty under guises of divinity. We consider them as our uh, act of civilization, but ultimately it is a violence. If we talk about form and structure of this poem, so basically it is with irregular lines and free verse, and occasional rhymes fragments you will find, like flies, plices, plain, pain, but no strict rhyme scheme followed in this poem. Basically it reflects the chaos and conflict in this poem. And this into three part or three stanzas, it is divided into. So ultimately, the structure mirrors progression towards global and political, philosophical, and then personal. This how the whole poem is moving further from the global political point of view towards the philosophical theme, and then ultimately to the personal reflection of poet himself. And if you talk about this tone and mood of the in the poem, like so tone is bitter, ironic, anguished, and of a conflicted. Mood disturbing, tragic, and reflective. So voices shift from impersonal critique, like colonial policy, corpses, to intimate confession, poets' own divided blood, and emotional climax, that how can I turn from Africa and leave? So ultimately, poet puts unsolved anguish or unsolved question of himself or his dilemma. So after going through the whole poem or the analysis of the poem, the question which basically arises in my mind or maybe of yours also is like on labeling and power. So who has the authority to call Kikyu tribe as a savages? Who has given authority to other people? If both colonizer and colonized commit violence, why is one seen as a justice and the other as a barbarism? In the poem, you will find that Britishers were doing ultimately dehumanization, effect. Dehumanizing actions on the this African people. But on the other hand, you will also find the killing of or the murder of 6 years old child. So this child has done nothing wrong. Instead, the you will find violence. So both the side you will find violence. And then on the nature and violence, if a beats kills out of necessity, why does upright men kill in the name of divinity, civilization, or peace? The question on identity and hybridity, like do hybrid identity ever find resolution, or must they always live with conflict and contradiction? As poet himself is in dilemma of his his hybrid identity, then morality and violence, who decide which violence is necessary and which is British? Does Walcott quoting colonial brutality and Mao violence show neutrality or his own conflicted identity? So, if I connect this with Israel-Palestine war, with this Mao revolt, so in the Mao revolt in Kenya, 1950, rebels fought against brutal British colonial rule, as earlier mentioned. But in their revenge, they also killed innocent. Also, like the image in the poem of the white child hacked in bed, and the killing of that child. Similarly, in the Israel and Palestine war, we find many civilians, including many innocent civilians, including children, women's, and other people killed through they have done nothing and nothing to deserve it. In both cases, the most powerless. I'm not saying this that women, children, they are powerless, but the innocent people, which is being which are being died in this wartime. So revenge and justice. Walcott shows the paradox, like African had right to fight against colonial oppressions, but by killing innocent, they lose their moral ground ultimately. So in the same way, Palestine resist occupation, Israel defends security, but either side kills children or civilians, the moral line is crossed ultimately. And the revenge may be understandable, but it cannot be justified when innocent dies. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that Walcott's A Far Cry from the Africa concludes with the unresolved tension and reflecting the poet's own divided identity. He's torn between his African heritage and his love for English language, unable to choose between the two. The ending highlights the lasting wounds of colonialism and the painful in betweenness of post-colonial identity. Ultimately, as poet also put question or remain in dilemma, like how can I stay calm seeing all these killings? How can I turn away from Africa when it is part of me? So this is how the poem ends. And I have also uploaded this video on TED platform. You can go there. You can check out, and you can also appear in the key quiz, and you can get the e-certificate of this. Thank you, all of you. Thank you so much, and happy Teachers' Day.